We come tonight, Lord, praying for our pastor, that you continue to look down on him, dear Lord, as he goes day by day, carrying out your word to those who are in dying need. We pray, Lord, as he visits each person, that some of the overflow hearts, your strength as you look out there on your strength. Lord, we believe that you are able and you can come to you. Praying, dear Lord, for our young people. Every name that is on our prayer list, dear Lord, that you will meet them tonight. You know what they stand in need of. We pray, Lord, that you will have mercy upon them, that you will look down on them, Lord. Cover those who are bowing. We're praying for those, Lord, who are unable to be here tonight. Having desire to be with them, dear Lord. And we pray for those who are in hospitals and convalescent homes, dear Lord. Somebody's unable to call up through your name tonight. We ask, remember those missionaries from foreign lands tonight. Protect them and guide them as they go through the evangelism. We pray, Lord, for those Christians who are out tonight, being persecuted against your word. Pray for safety for them, wherever, Lord, they stand in need of. We know that you can supply. We believe that you will. Pray, Lord, that you will bless us as we come out to study your word. So that the minds to understand what your word is saying. Help us to live. Bless us over here. Keep us on one accord, dear Lord. Pray for willing workers for this little vineyard. Lord, that they will come in, able and willing and willing to work for you, dear Lord. We pray that you just bless this special work. Now, Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over all of us here tonight. Lord, and take us back home safely if it is your will. We love you, we praise you, and we lift up your name.
Lord, we come today, Lord, thank you for another day, Lord. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you, Lord, for all that we do and bond to pray for, Lord, for you have been the God who has kept us from one beginning of grace to another. We are grateful, Lord, we love you. We pray that you continue to keep watch over us, Lord, this week. Go forward day by day, Lord. We pray that you continue to minister to our needs and to help us, Lord, each step of the way. We thank you, Lord, for your commitment and your love towards us, Lord. We pray that you continue to administer to our needs everything that we have in need of. We pray that you continue to uplift us and to care. We pray, Father, for the power of your us to strengthen us, to cleanse us, Lord. Forgive us of our sins, where we have strayed, where we have missed the mark. We pray, Father, to continue to administer every aspect of our life to our needs that you have. We pray, Father, for our church as a whole, Lord. We lift up the people here this evening. And we pray for every member. We pray, Father, for their strength, for their hearts. We pray, Lord, that they will be committed to you, that they will come to know you. We pray, Father, for a greater sense of awakening to the need that they have for you, Lord. We pray, Lord, from us, Lord, to continue to be worthy the calling that you called us to minister to, Lord. Praying, Father, that you continue to draw into us a greater sense of our need at every level. And we come to recognize, Lord, that we really need you. We need you in every aspect of our life to guide us, to help us, to strengthen us, to keep us in your care. We pray, Father, for our church. We pray for these who are here. We pray, Lord, for those who are absent for whatever reason. We lift them slow for their lives and touch those who are sick. We lift up the sick, Lord. We pray for them. Lift up that your community with her and these other members, Lord, have been sick. Freeman, and pray for Harold, that you continue to be with him. This healing process, we pray for continue to lift. All these other things we are constantly praying for. Body, time of bereavement, and our strength. Pray for our work. Lord, that the power of this vision will be carried out, Lord. Do what you will have us to do, Lord. Pray that we will be faithful to the end. Continue to be dependent on you in everything in our lives. Guide us and help us, Lord. Pray now for the study of your word, Lord. As we study your word, Lord, and we learn more about you, transform us, Lord, more and more. Pray, Lord, as we study your word, Lord, the Holy Spirit will bring us the truth of your word, Lord. And if we study the truth, we will come to know you more. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. Well, we are in the 7th chapter of Ecclesiastes this evening, and we are looking at this wonderful chapter. We've been looking at these other chapters, and up to now we have been looking at the first 6 chapters. We were kind of getting a glimpse into the realm of Solomon's life in chapter 6. In the first 6 chapters, we were looking at Solomon's life. You know, Solomon had lived a life as being the king who had everything. In the first 6 chapters, he examines what that looks like when having everything, having the wisdom, having the power, having the money, having all the things that a person can have, and living life, and also observing life, to what life was about. And so the first 6 chapters of Ecclesiastes, Solomon the world of seeing life in this bigger picture. The life, he begins to examine it. You see that phrase, vanity of vanities, all this is like chasing the wind. So the first 6 chapters, we got a glimpse into Solomon's life, and finding out that he had just exhausted life, and life really without God was in many ways meaningless. You know, series of Proverbs in chapter 7, and he's going to bring this form of Proverbs, and you know, we're studying something called wisdom literature, and he's going to bring these Proverbs in a style of poetry. So that's what we're going to read and we're going to learn tonight. I don't know if we can finish with all of chapter 7, we kind of got a late start. But what we have in chapter 7, we begin to study how to provide a set of Proverbs, and he's going to draw it in the sense of wisdom. and we're going to learn how he writes these proverbs in a style. Now, we're going to learn something about this particular thing here for just one moment. We're going to learn about something called a form of writing. A form of writing called parallelism. A form of writing called parallelism. We're going to learn about that tonight. And what we're going to learn about how poetry is written in the ancient world, and really for us to not only to learn it, but to read it. Written in what is called written poetry, written in poetic forms. And these poets to memorize a lot of the Bible, a lot of things that were in the Bible. And a lot of times what it was used to, it would help people memorize the sayings, memorize the rhymes, memorize the rhythm. A lot of the poetry that we have in our lifetime, we have poetry that sometimes rhymes. The cat in the hat. Now that's how that poetry it rhymes. The house. But in the Bible and in ancient Hebrew poetry, we have another, and this style and contrasting something. It's comparing and contrasting something. So parallelism is a literary device of writing poetry. It wants to accentuate a certain highlight, wants to highlight a particular emphasis or an idea that it wants to express. And it can do it in various ways. It can do it in what we call compare and contrast. That's a part of parallelism called contrasting parallelism. Another style that the Bible is written in is written also in something called completion parallelism. And that stacks information to complete a thought. We'll look at a couple of these things in just a minute. And another one is called comparative parallelism. And this is another way in which poetry is written. And this is comparing two ideas, 2 points that are to be made. Way we'll this these different styles of Ecclesiastes. The first style is called comparative parallelism. Now, if you turn to Proverbs 25, when we talk about comparative parallelism, you'll see an idea that it's going to talk about. It's going to show you how something compares. In Proverbs 25:24, it says, "It's better to live in the corner of the roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman." Mm-hmm. So it's comparing two different ways, right? It's better parallelism. You see two contrasting ideas. You see that in Proverbs 13:1. It says, "A wise son accepts his father's discipline, but a scoffer does not listen to the rebuke." So contrast two different characters: the wise person and what? The foolish person, the scoffer. The wise son listens to what? Accepts his father's discipline. The scoffer does not listen, he gets rebuked. So it gives you the contrasting parallelism. That's another form of proverb. Another one's called parallelism. In other words, it's completing an idea. It's forming it around a particular idea, and it's going to complete that idea. This is an example in Proverbs 14:13. It says, even in laughter the heart may be in pain, and the end of joy may be grief. So that's another way of comparing and completing parallelism. Even in laughter the heart may be in pain, and at the end of grief. So it's stacking information to complete an idea. So tonight we're going to look at these 2 points, and we're going to look at this chapter 7, and we're going to see a lot of these points that are made. Now the bulk of almost all of the verses are comparative. They're comparative parallelism. They're comparative. So we're going to see the Proverbs of wisdom, they are comparative. Look at what we said. Well, it's comparative. Draws a comparison. Let me give an example of how it's a comparison. It's better to live in this way than to live that way. It's better to live in a roof than to live with a contentious woman in the house. So let's give you a comparison like this. So most of in chapter 17 is comparison. Chapter 7 is comparison. So we're going to look at a few things as Solomon now gives us the wisdom of life. We're going to find out the wisdom of life. So let's look at Proverbs 7. Proverbs chapter 7. So let's begin in verse 1. What does it say? Someone read that for us.
A good name is better than precious ornament, and the day of death than the day of one's.
Okay, so here is what? This is a what? Comparative proverb, right? Mm-hmm. It's comparing what? A good name is better than what? And the day of death is better than what? One day of birth. So it's giving you the comparing the name better than ointment. Death is better than birth. So it's giving you the value, right? A good name is better than good ointment. In other words, your name, it's a good thing to have a good name. Once you mess up your name, well, that's the end of everything. If your name is messed up, you can't do anything. It's always things that happens a lot of times with a famous preacher or a pastor or a leader. Like once their name is damaged, they in some kind of scandal, that's usually the end. I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't come back to preach again, but it just means that's the end of their ministry because what? Their name has been damaged. So that's what he was telling you about the experiences of life and how he realizes that those experiences without God are just vanity. Now he's going to tell us in chapter 7, he's going to bring the wisdom in the form of Proverbs. And this is what we're studying now. So we're studying Proverbs, and we're studying Proverbs. You see this is exactly the style of writing that Solomon uses in the book of Proverbs. So let's keep reading. Verse 2.
Better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it too hard.
Okay, so what is it telling you here? It's saying what? Better to go to a funeral than something or a celebration, like a wedding, right? Mm-hmm. And he's bringing the reality to that idea that at a funeral, what happens? The preacher can talk and he's going to tell you about life. People are serious and they're listening to him, right? Mm-hmm. But if the minister is at a wedding, what are they looking at? What's on their mind? Are their mind on what the words they're saying? No. What are they looking at? The bride, they're looking at the dress, they're looking at the ceremony. So Solomon is saying that a funeral is better because it gives you a chance to reflect on life as a whole. It gives you a chance to reflect on God. It gives you a chance to reflect on something that's bigger than a party. A party, nobody's listening to what you're saying, but a funeral is a place of seriousness. It tells you about life. Let's look at verses 3. So this is a comparative is also completing an idea. Verse
wise morning, but the heart of the fool is in the house of mirth.
Okay, so here's another one. Contrasting ideas, right? Contrasting ideas. Contrasting what? Sorrow, what? And laughter, what? Sad heart, happy. Those are the contrasting ideas. So he's bringing you into the reality of what sober-mindedness. That the trials of life, when you are sad, that brings you into what? The reality of where you come to a point where you can depend on God more. You see your condition is really bad, you see something that's happening. This in many ways is more valuable, right? Sorrow is what better than laughter, because sorrow then gives you a chance to say, hey, let me depend on God. Let me call on God. I'm in a very dark place. When you're happy, there's less of a chance for you to call out to God, a chance to seek God. So Solomon recognizes that what? Sorrow is what? Better than laughter. Sorrow is. This is two things he's talking about. What else? He says, what else in verse 4? What's it in verse 4?
The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of the fool is in the house of mirth.
Yeah, and this is what he's trying to draw you into the same thing. He's bringing you into that whole idea that reflection is better than folly. Reflection is better than folly. When you're reflecting on life and you're seeing the whole of life, that's better than living in a period of pleasure. That's what he's trying to draw you to. Verse 5 and 7, what are we going to those? What does it say?
It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the songs of fools. For like the crackling of thorns on a pot, so for the this also is vanity.
Okay, so now we look at 3 verses here we're going to look at, and we're going to look at something called completive parallelism. This is a verse. What do we say completive parallelism was? Completive is a thought that's being complete. It's stacking information to complete the thought of an idea. It's stacking information together. So let's look at this completism. Let's look at verse 6 as a good example of it. Verse 6, read that again for us.
For like the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity.
Okay, so the crackling of bushes under the pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is the laughter of a fool. So it's trying to tell you what the laughter of a fool is like. It's giving you this crackling sound of an idea of something that's happened that's what sounds really crazy, and then it's completing that idea by saying what? So is the laughter of fools. In other words, useless. It's like a pot that's being crackled with thorns in it. Verse 5 is another example of completing an idea or a thought. What does it say in verse 5? Read that again for us.
It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the songs of fools.
Okay, in other words, it's good to hear criticism rather than someone telling you what everything is going smooth. That's what he's trying to tell you. It's better sometimes to hear someone critique you, even though that's very hard to hear critique. We usually become what? Very defensive when someone what brings a rebuke or a critique, good way of saying it. It's better to listen to the critique of a wise man. People hate more than anything in the world to be criticized. Still, somebody something that's right that they've done, it's very hard for them to hear that. Because that's better than having someone always telling you something that's good. You're doing a good job. Like, oh, everything's going well. Oh, he looks really good. Doesn't mean that that's not important. You want to encourage people, give people encouragement. That's important. They need to hear. Sometimes they need to hear critiquing that will help them. It's what he's drawing you for. So Solomon now, as he's bringing into the reader, he's bringing you a sense of wisdom of what life is about. Verse 7, read that for us. This is another completed verse.
Surely oppression destroys a wise man's reason, and a bribe debases the heart.
Okay, so here's two examples of a thought, and then there's other thought making it complete, stacking up this information to complete an idea. Verse 7 says what? The oppression of what? What's that again? Something else even more is that point. So read that verse again.
A wise man.
So that's the first part. That says what? Oppression destroys the wise man. Now let's complete that thought. Read the second part.
And a bribe debases the heart.
And a bribe debases heart. So it's completing a thought. It's emphasizing that idea that what? You can fall into temptation. This can happen to you. This can be manipulated. So it's trying to emphasize that idea that these destroy a person. Now let's look at another one. We're going to look at now another comparison. Proverbs. Verse 8. Now remember the book of Ecclesiastes switching style. Solomon was giving us information. Now in chapter 7 he's giving us Proverbs to live by. He's giving us wisdom of Proverbs. So let's look at verse 8. What does it say?
The end of a thing is better than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit.
Okay, so what do you think that means there? Think about that real carefully. The end of a matter. Beginning.
No, in the beginning, something is starting to happen, and by the end, it's finished, and you're done with it.
Right. You don't really know what's going to happen at the beginning. Wait till it's complete. That's what it's saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
The end is better than the beginning. So I compare that to that point to show you kind of a little bit more what it means. What does it say? Patience of spirit is better than what?
Proud in spirit.
People are always rushing for something. Why did you wait and let's find out what's going to happen? You're rushing to think you know the answer to something. It's better to wait in the answer, Solomon was saying. It's better to be patient. It's better to let something happen and let it come to completion. So these aspects of wisdom, he's drawing it for people to see, and it's something that as I begin to look at this book, it really is a book that once we look at the aspect of wisdom that is being given out in this book, it is designed to help people in their lives. Solomon is giving us very key points that can help us in our lives. As we read through these things, I think, was listening to McGee was talking about how the book of Proverbs is always a good book for young people to study. It's a good book that supplies the wisdom, because knowledge, a person can go. Wisdom comes from the experience of life. You can't get that in college. You can't get that in school. That comes through life. And God provides for us wisdom literature, wisdom in the Bible that can help us and to develop us in our lives as believers. Let's look at verses 9 and 10. What does it say?
Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools.
Okay.
So
What do you think that one is? Do you think is that comparative, or is that completing an idea? Think about it. Do not be eager in your heart to be angry. What is that doing? That's comparing one.
Don't be quick to get angry at something.
Right.
And
And the reason why is because what then
anger rests in the bosom of fools.
so it's giving you what?
Wisdom that you're likely to make a foolish decision or do something foolish when you're angry.
Yes, the instinctive reaction that people function under when they're angry rather than thinking about something. What? Sometimes comes out of anger, and Solomon says that anger is at the bottom of the heart of a fool, and it's good that you don't what? React eagerly. Now he just got to giving us information about being patient. So he's kind of giving you a completion of this entire idea of waiting, thinking, being patient, not just rushing to do something. Now he's going to give you a bit of wisdom in verse 10, proverb as well. What does it say?
Say, were former better than these.
Okay, what is he saying that? First, don't say, oh, the old days were good. Oh, when I was growing up, it was really like this. Solomon says, don't do that because what?
Where you do not inquire wisely concerning this.
Okay. You're not thinking really about, we're going to talk a little bit about that. He's going to give you a little bit more clarity on that. He says what? Don't say that the former days were better than these days today. He says, because what?
You do not inquire wisely concerning this.
Right, it's not a really true statement. That's what Solomon says. When you first some things that were good about the good old days,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some things about the good days that are not so good. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I wish I was back in the old days." They didn't have medicine, they didn't have technology, they didn't have a lot of different things, they didn't have phones. In other words, you're saying things because you're reacting out of emotion. And Solomon says, don't look at it from that perspective. There are some good things that were in the past, some good things in the front, but really our hope is not in trying to control what has happened in the past, but to really see the bigger picture of God working in our lives day by day. You don't know what the future is going to hold. So wisdom is not, you're not trying to find out and trying to recall the good days. And say, hey, if the good old days are better than these days. You don't know, there's some good things about the good old days, there's some bad things about the good old days. Verse 11.
Wisdom is good with an inheritance and profitable to those who see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, as money is a defense. Of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to those who have it.
Okay. Verse, what did you say? Get that verse 12 and go. Preserve the lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it says, for wisdom, we're reading in the ESV for a second. It says, for wisdom is protection. So, excuse me, verse 11. Wisdom along with an inheritance is good, and an advantage to those who see the sun. For wisdom is protection, just as money is protection. But the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the lives of its possessors. So here he is saying that inheritance is okay, but inheritance is what is good. Inheritance with wisdom is what is good. So it says that wisdom is really the protection against the pitfalls of life, and it brings the better quality of life. In other words, even if you have the wealth, even if you have the inheritance, wisdom is what it is that you're looking for. Wisdom is what it is that you need, because wisdom helps you to avoid that which comes with life. Now he's going to give another aspect of wisdom. He's going to say wisdom gives you a divine perspective. Wisdom provides something for us to see as it relates to God as a whole. Let's look at this. Verse 13 and 14.
Consider the work of God, for who can make straight what he has made? In a day of prosperity, joyful, but in a day of adversity, consider. Surely God has appointed the one as well as the other, so that man can find nothing that will happen after him.
Okay, so here's a very interesting set of proverbs that he brings here. He brings us in a sense of when you have wisdom, you begin to consider the whole idea of God as a whole. He says in verse 13, you begin to consider the work of God. In other words, how is God working? And that God is really in control of everything in the sense that Solomon says you can't make a crooked way straight. That God has decided the end and the beginning. He's in control of everything. Even in the sense that he says in your day of adversity, he has made this so that you will sense a dependence on him, that he ultimately is going to work out whatever you go through in life. And he's going to ultimately control. He's made the times of things going well for you. He's made the times of things going bad for you. And they are ultimately designed for the purpose of God. That he is ultimately working out whatever he's working out in your life so that you can't make it any straighter and you can't make it any crookeder. God, of course, is determining everything. That the decisions of our life are based on God. True wisdom is a dependence on God. True wisdom is asking and seeking in everything we do. True wisdom is our dependence on God for the circumstances of our life. It relieves the anxiety of life. It relieves the trials of life. I was talking to a lady who was very sick and she's very anxious. She has a lot of things going on in her life. And she has been given a sentence of her health is declining. And as I'm talking to her, she's very worried and very anxious. And so I was telling her, I said, you have to begin to put all of your cares on God, even in the midst of your sickness. You have to begin to put all your trials on him, and that he will guide but she's going to show you how wisdom can benefit you. Now, we've looked at wisdom in terms of its application to a certain extent, but he's going to provide us an element of what wisdom really does for us. And we're going to look at verses 15, 16, 17, and 18. And it's going to show you that wisdom provides for us a sense of balance in our lives, a sense of balance in our lives. And we'll see some of these verses, may seem a little contradictory. So let's look at verses 15, 16, 17, 4 verses.
I have seen everything in my days of vanity. There is a just man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs life in his wickedness.
So Solomon says, I've seen a very righteous man, and he's what? He didn't live very long, and he lived a very righteous life. Mm-hmm. And then I saw a wicked man who what? He had a long life, and he continued in his wickedness. Very interesting things. So I want to give you a balance, Solomon says, of how I see things in verse 16 and 17. What does he say?
Do not be overly righteous, nor be overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be overly wicked, nor be foolish. Why should you die before your time?
Verse 18.
It is good that you grasp this and also not remove your hand from the other. but he who fears God will escape them all.
So here Solomon brings us into the balance of life. He's saying, trying to just say, hey, I'm going to try my best to be righteous, you really can't do that. Because it's not so much that you're trying to be righteous to extend your life. Life is in control of God, so it's not a matter of you being righteous and that will make your life longer. But at the same time, Solomon says, I also want you to recognize is that you shouldn't be a fool with your life. You know, that too can shorten your life. Being overly foolish about your life, that too is dangerous. That too can end in the run. You can do something crazy, you can act a fool and get yourself killed. So Solomon said, you need to have a balance in your life. Being crazy will get you killed, right? The righteousness won't. So there has to be a balance, he says, in life. In other words, avoiding the extremes is the way to live a good life. Now, the next few verses, we're out of time for tonight. We're going to look at verses 19 to 22. We're going to look at how wisdom provides strength, and then we're going to look at verses 23 to 29, and wisdom provides light, insight rather. Wisdom provides insight, provides an enlightenment rather. So verses 23 to 29. So we're going to look at those ones. So next time if you get a chance, read those verses 19 to 20, and see how wisdom provides strength. Verses 19 to 22, and then read over verses 23 to 29 and see how wisdom provides insight or enlightenment. Any questions?
Just real quick, I just want to know,
Yes.
how does that balance out with, like in Psalm 37, where it's like, like grass and whether as greener, trust in the Lord and do good, dwell on the land and feed on faithfulness.
So, what's your question?
So how does that balance out, like, with, basically, again, it's, in the Psalms, it's pointing out that,
So David has given us, in one of the Psalms, he's bringing you a general statement, right? Read the general statement he's making.
so, the general statement is that don't consume yourself with the work of people that do evil, because it will pass away.
Read it again, see what it says. Read that verse again. It
So
says
it
what?
says, do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the workers of iniquity.
So don't worry about what you see people doing bad things. You see people or people who are working in sin. Keep reading.
They will they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither like the green herb.
Okay, so then he's saying those people, eventually their day is going to come. That's basically what he's saying. You don't have to worry about someone who's doing evil or doing bad things. Eventually their day is going to come. So now you want to compare that to what?
So what was happening with
Solomon is bringing you into a clarity of what? It's not so much that people who do bad, that they do what? They live along, or people who live good, or people who do bad and go out. There are what general ideas. What Solomon is trying to do is bring us. Eventually, everybody dies. That's what he says in verse. But what he wants you to understand is it's not so much that you are controlling your destiny. God will ultimately deal with all judgment of everyone, whether it's good or bad. And so David is telling you in the Psalms not to worry about that. Their day is coming. Judgment is coming for those people who are doing evil. Solomon is saying that you may even see people doing evil and what? Their life is long and their life is short. But the issue that you're to be worried about is balancing your own life of kind of like what he's doing. So he's giving you Solomon's giving you a point of balance. David is speaking from a position of judgment. David is saying the ultimate judgment is going to come to those who are doing evil things. Solomon is saying that evil things, he's not saying that people that don't do evil, bad things won't happen to them, but he's trying to tell you that what he has noticed is what there are times when evil people do what? Live a long life. And people that are good live a short life. It's not necessarily always in your control of you trying to live good, to live a good life, or to live a long life that may or may not happen. Because the best way for you to live life is live a balanced life. Instead of you trying to live or long to make sure that you live righteous so that your life will be long. Solomon said, I've seen people who live righteous and their life wasn't very long at all. And I've seen people who live wicked and their life was very good. So he's trying to bring us into living a life of faith and a life of dependence on God in every circumstance of our life. And I think that's what David is saying. Living in faith of God, and God ultimately one day will deal with the evil that people do. He's going to cut them off. It may not be fast, but eventually God will do his man. Yeah, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you, Lord, for your word. Thank you for all that you've given me, for what you've provided. Thank you for your blessings. We pray that you continue to keep us, Lord, as we study your word.